In the far reaches of the galaxy, on a planet with 2 suns and 3 moons, lived the Zorans. They were a peaceful race, tall and slender with skin that shimmered like diamonds. For thousands of years, they had lived in harmony, building great cities that touched the clouds and developing technology that could heal any illness. But their peaceful world was about to change forever. It started as a small dot in the sky, barely visible to the naked eye. The Zoran scientists noticed it first, their advanced telescopes picking up an anomaly at the edge of their solar system. At first, they thought it was just another comet passing by. But as days went by, the dot grew larger and larger. Kira, the lead scientist at the Zoran Central Observatory, couldn't believe her eyes. "This can't be right," she muttered, adjusting her instruments. But the readings were clear. Whatever was approaching their planet was massive, and it was moving fast. Within a week, the truth became clear. It wasn't a comet or an asteroid. It was a fleet of ships, unlike anything the Zorans had ever seen. Dark, menacing vessels that blotted out the stars as they approached. Panic spread across the planet like wildfire. The Zoran leaders gathered in their grand council chamber, their faces pale with fear. "We must prepare for the worst," said Elder Zax, his voice trembling. "We are a peaceful people. We have no weapons, no defenses against such a force." As the alien fleet drew closer, they received their first transmission. The message was short and terrifying. "Surrender or be destroyed." The Zorans tried to negotiate, to reason with the invaders. They offered their advanced technology, their medical knowledge, anything to appease them. But the response was always the same: surrender or be destroyed. With no other choice, the Zorans turned to their last hope. They activated their long-range communication array, a technology they had developed to search for other life in the galaxy. But now, instead of a greeting, they sent out a desperate plea for help. "To any civilizations who can hear us," the message began, "we are the Zorans. Our world is under attack by a force we cannot hope to defeat. We are a peaceful people. We have no means to defend ourselves. Please, if anyone is out there, we beg for your help. We beg for mercy." The message was sent out in all directions, repeating over and over. Day after day, the Zorans waited for a response. But as the enemy ships entered their atmosphere, hope began to fade. The first attacks came swiftly and without warning. Great beams of energy rained down from the sky, turning the Zorans' beautiful cities to ash. Millions fled to underground shelters, watching in horror as their world burned above them. In the council chamber, now deep beneath the surface, the Zoran leaders listened to reports of the destruction. "Has anyone answered our call?" Elder Zax asked, his voice hoarse from days of ceaseless meetings. Kira, who had joined the council to provide scientific advice, shook her head. "We've received acknowledgments from several advanced races," she said, "but they all say the same thing. They're sorry, but they can't risk getting involved. They fear bringing the invaders' wrath upon themselves." A heavy silence fell over the room. The situation seemed hopeless. Their cities were in ruins, their people were dying, and no help was coming. But then, just as all seemed lost, a young technician burst into the chamber. "We've received a new transmission," he shouted, his eyes wide with excitement. It's from a planet called Earth." The council members looked at each other in confusion. None of them had heard of Earth before. It wasn't one of the advanced civilizations they knew of. "What do they say?" Elder Zax asked, a small spark of hope igniting in his chest. The technician read from his data pad, his voice filled with awe. "They say they're coming to help. They say, hold on, we're on our way." For the first time since the invasion began, a glimmer of hope shone in the darkness. The Zorans didn't know who these Earthlings were or how they could possibly help. But in their darkest hour, when all others had turned away, these unknown beings had answered their call. Little did the Zorans know, this was just the beginning of an adventure that would change the fate of their world and the entire galaxy forever. On Earth, the message from the Zorans had caused a global stir. It came through on a frequency that scientists had been monitoring for years, hoping to find signs of alien life. Instead of a friendly greeting, they received a desperate plea for help. At first, many thought it was a hoax, but as experts around the world verified the signal's authenticity, the truth became clear. Humanity was not alone in the universe, and their first contact was a cry for help. World leaders gathered in an emergency United Nations session. The main screen in the assembly hall showed the translated Zoran message, playing on a loop. The room was filled with a mix of excitement and fear. "We can't ignore this," said the U.S. President, her voice firm. "But we need to understand what we're getting into. Do we have the capability to help?" The Chinese premier nodded in agreement. "Our space program has made significant advances, but interstellar travel, that's beyond our current technology." As the debate raged on, Dr. Emily Chen, head of the Global Space Initiative, stepped up to the podium. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, her eyes bright with determination, "I believe we can do this. We've been working on an experimental drive that could potentially cover vast distances in space. It's risky, it's untested, but it's our only shot." The room erupted in murmurs. The Russian president leaned forward, his brow furrowed. "How long would it take to prepare?" "With global cooperation and round-the-clock work, we could have a small fleet ready in 6 months," Dr. Chen replied. The debate continued for hours. Some argued it was too risky, that Earth should focus on its own defense in case these invaders came here next. Others said it was humanity's duty to help, that this could be the beginning of a galactic alliance. In the end, the vote was close, but the decision was made. Earth would answer the call. The next 6 months were a whirlwind of activity. Countries that had once been rivals now worked together, pooling resources and knowledge. The world's best scientists, engineers, and soldiers were recruited for the mission. In orbit, a fleet of 5 ships took shape. They were the best Earth had to offer, equipped with the experimental drive Dr. Chen and her team had developed. Each ship was named after a mythical protector from Earth's various cultures: Athena, Kali, Amaterasu, Quetzalcoatl, and Maui. As the day of launch approached, millions around the world watched in anticipation. In homes, schools, and public squares, people gathered around screens, waiting for the historic moment. On the bridge of the lead ship, Athena, Captain Sarah Martinez, looked out at the stars. A veteran of multiple space missions, she had been chosen to lead this unprecedented expedition. "Are we ready?" she asked her crew. Her second-in-command, Commander Lai Wei, nodded. "As ready as we'll ever be, Captain. All ships report systems are go." Captain Martinez took a deep breath. "Then let's make history." With a burst of energy that lit up the Earth's sky like a new sun, the 5 ships activated their drives. In a flash, they were gone, leaving behind a stunned and hopeful planet. The journey was like nothing the crew had ever experienced. They traveled through corridors of light and darkness, witnessing cosmic wonders that no human eye had ever seen before. Days blended together as they pushed further into the unknown. Finally, after what felt like both an eternity and an instant, they arrived. The alien system loomed before them, 2 suns casting an eerie glow on the planets. "My God," whispered Commander Lai, staring at the main view screen. "We actually made it." But their sense of triumph was short-lived. As they approached the Zoran homeworld, they saw the devastation. Parts of the planet were on fire, visible even from space, and surrounding it was a massive fleet of dark, ominous ships. Captain Martinez's jaw set in determination. "Send out a broadcast on all frequencies," she ordered. "Let the Zorans know we're here." As the message was sent, the human fleet moved into position. They were outnumbered and in unknown territory, facing an enemy they knew nothing about. But they had come too far to turn back now. The fate of 2 civilizations now hung in the balance, as humanity prepared for its first interstellar battle. The human fleet hung in space, facing the massive army of invaders. Captain Martinez's message echoed across the stars. "This is Captain Sarah Martins of the Earth Alliance. We've come in response to the Zoran distress call. We demand you cease your attack immediately." For a long moment, there was silence. Then, a harsh, grating voice filled the communication channels. "Puny humans," it sneered. "You dare to challenge the mighty Krylox Empire. Leave now, or share the Zoran's fate." Captain Martinez exchanged glances with Commander Lai. This was the moment of truth. "We're not going anywhere," she replied firmly. "We're here to help the Zorans, and we're prepared to fight if necessary." The response was immediate and violent. A barrage of energy beams shot towards the Earth ships. "Evasive maneuvers," Martinez shouted. The human fleet scattered, narrowly avoiding the deadly attack. What followed was chaos. The space around the Zoran planet lit up with explosions and laser fire. The human ships, though outnumbered, proved surprisingly agile. Their smaller size allowed them to dodge many of the Krylox attacks, while their advanced targeting systems let them strike with precision. On the planet's surface, the Zorans watched the battle with a mixture of fear and hope. Elder Zax and Kira huddled with others in an underground bunker, their eyes fixed on a grainy holographic display of the fight above. "I can't believe they actually came," Kira whispered, her voice filled with awe. "And look how they fight. I've never seen ships move like that." Elder Zax nodded, his expression grave. "But will it be enough? The Krylox are so many." Back in space, the human fleet was holding its own, but just barely. The Athena shook violently as it took a hit to its shields. "Damage report," Martinez called out. "Shields at 60%, Captain," a young officer replied, his fingers flying over his console. "But we've taken out 3 of their cruisers." Martinez allowed herself a small smile. They were making progress, but they needed to do more. "Contact the other ships," she ordered. "Tell them to focus their fire on the Krylox flagship. If we can take out their leader, we might be able to end this quickly." As the battle raged on, something unexpected happened. The Krylox, used to easy victories against peaceful races, found themselves frustrated by the humans' tenacity. Their neat formations began to break apart as they struggled to hit the nimble Earth ships. Aboard the Krylox flagship, General Zork was furious. "How are these primitives giving us so much trouble?" he roared, slamming his fist on his command chair. "Intensify our attack. Crush them." But the humans had a secret weapon. Dr. Chen, watching the battle from Earth via long-range sensors, activated a device she'd installed on each ship. Suddenly, holographic projections of hundreds of Earth vessels appeared among the real ones. The Krylox fleet faltered, confused by the sudden multiplication of their enemy. In that moment of hesitation, the human ships struck. Concentrating their fire, they broke through the flagship's defenses. A massive explosion lit up the sky. The Krylox flagship split apart, secondary explosions rippling along its length. A cheer went up through the human fleet. They'd done it. But their victory was short-lived. As the flagship fell, the remaining Krylox ships regrouped. There were still far too many of them. "Captain," Commander Lai said, his voice tense, "our shields are failing. We can't take much more of this." Martinez gritted her teeth. They'd come so far, fought so hard. She couldn't let it end here. "Send a message to the Zorans," she ordered. "Tell them we need their help. Any ships, any weapons they might have hidden away. It's time for them to join the fight." As the message was sent, the human fleet prepared for what might be their final stand. They'd shown the galaxy what humanity was capable of. Now, they could only hope it would be enough to inspire the Zorans to rise up and defend their world. The battle for the fate of 2 civilizations entered its most critical phase, with the outcome hanging in the balance. As Captain Martinez's message reached the Zoran bunker, Elder Zax and Kira looked at each other in shock. The humans were asking for their help, but what could they do? They were a peaceful race, with no weapons or warships. Suddenly, Kira's eyes lit up. "Wait," she exclaimed. Our atmospheric regulators. We could use them. Elder Zax looked confused. How can weather control help in a space battle? Kira explained quickly, her words tumbling out in excitement. We can reprogram them to create massive electromagnetic pulses. It won't destroy the Krylox ships, but it might disable their systems temporarily. The Elder's eyes widened in understanding. It was risky, but it might work. He nodded, giving Kira the go-ahead. Meanwhile, in space, the human fleet was struggling. The Quetzalcoatl had taken heavy damage, its crew evacuating to the other ships. The remaining 4 vessels fought on, but their shields were failing. Aboard the Athena, Captain Martinez wiped sweat from her brow. "Status report," she called out. Commander Lee's voice was grim. "Not good, Captain. Kali and Mau are down to 20% shields. We can't take much more of this." Just as all seemed lost, a message came through from the planet's surface. "Humans, this is Kira of the Zorans. Brace yourselves. We're about to try something." Before Martinez could ask what they meant, the planet below them seemed to shimmer. Huge waves of energy pulsed outward from its surface, washing over both the human and Krylox fleets. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, one by one, the Krylox ships began to drift. Their weapons fell silent. Their engines died. The electromagnetic pulse had worked, shutting down their systems. "Now's our chance," Martinez shouted. "All ships, focus fire on their command vessels." The human fleet sprang into action. With the Krylox defenses down, they were able to target key ships, destroying them before they could recover. On the Krylox command ship, General Zork was in a panic. "What's happening?" he roared. "Get our systems back online." His technicians worked frantically, but by the time they managed to restore power, it was too late. They watched in horror as their fleet, once mighty and invincible, was decimated by the combined efforts of humans and Zorans. Back on the planet's surface, the Zorans cheered as they watched the Krylox ships explode or flee. Elder Zax turned to Kira, tears in his eyes. "You did it," he said softly. "You saved us all." Kira shook her head, smiling. "No, we did it. We and the humans. Together." As the last of the Krylox ships disappeared into the darkness of space, Captain Martinez allowed herself to relax for the first time since they'd arrived. "Send a message to the Zorans," she told Commander Lai. "Tell them it's over. We've won." The news spread quickly. Across the Zoran planet, people emerged from their shelters, looking up at the sky in wonder. The invaders were gone, driven away by the unlikeliest of allies. Hours later, as the human ships began landing procedures, crowds of Zorans gathered to greet them. Captain Martinez stepped out of the Athena, flanked by her crew. They were met by Elder Zax and Kira. For a moment, the two groups stood facing each other, taking in their differences. The Zorans, tall and shimmering, and the humans, shorter but standing proud. Then Elder Zax stepped forward, arms outstretched in a gesture of welcome. "On behalf of all Zorans," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "I thank you. You answered our call when no one else would. You risked everything for a people you'd never met. We owe you our lives, our world, our future." Captain Martinez smiled, reaching out to clasp the Elder's hand. "We came because it was the right thing to do," she replied simply. "And I think this is just the beginning of a beautiful friendship between our peoples." As humans and Zorans mingled, sharing stories and thanks, a new chapter in galactic history began. The day the humans answered the call would be remembered forever, the start of an alliance that would change the fate of the galaxy. In the days following the battle, humans and Zorans worked side by side to rebuild. The Zoran cities, once gleaming towers of crystal and light, now lay in ruins. But with human determination and Zoran technology, the reconstruction efforts progressed rapidly. Captain Martinez and her crew found themselves hailed as heroes. Everywhere they went, Zorans would stop to thank them, offering gifts of shimmering fabrics and strange, sweet fruits. The humans, in turn, were fascinated by Zoran culture and technology. One morning, as Martinez walked through a newly rebuilt market with Kira, the Zoran scientist asked, "How did you humans develop such effective battle strategies? We thought you were a young race." Martinez chuckled. "We are young compared to many galactic civilizations, but our history is full of conflicts. We've learned to be resourceful in the face of danger." Kira nodded thoughtfully. "It's strange. Your warlike past has made you uniquely suited to protect peaceful races like us." Their conversation was interrupted by a loud alarm. Both women looked up to see red lights flashing across the city. "What's happening?" Martines asked, her hand instinctively moving to her weapon. Kira's face had gone pale. "It's a proximity alert. Something big just entered our solar system." They rushed to the central command center, where Elder Zax and Commander Lai were already gathered around a holographic display. The image showed a massive ship, easily 10 times the size of the largest Krylox vessel they had faced. "Is it the Krylox?" Martines asked, her voice tense. Elder Zax shook his head. "No, this is something else. We're receiving a transmission." The hologram flickered, and a new image appeared. It showed a being unlike anything the humans had ever seen. It had multiple eyes that blinked independently and skin that seemed to shift colors as it moved. "Greetings, Zorans and humans," the being said, its voice resonating strangely. "I am Ambassador Xylox of the Galactic Council. We have come to investigate the recent disturbance in this sector." The room fell silent. The Galactic Council was something the Zorans had only heard whispers about. A coalition of the most advanced races in the galaxy. They had always remained aloof, never interfering in the affairs of younger species. Elder Zax stepped forward. "Ambassador, we welcome you. The disturbance you speak of was an invasion by the Krylox Empire. Thanks to the bravery of our human allies, we were able to repel them." The ambassador's eyes all blinked at once, a sign of surprise. "The humans, but they are a primitive race, barely able to leave their own planet. How could they have defeated the Krylox?" Captain Martinez felt a surge of pride and indignation. "We may be young," she said, stepping into view of the transmission, "but we're quick learners, and we don't abandon those in need." Ambassador Xylox studied her for a long moment. "Interesting," it said finally. "Very interesting indeed. The Council will want to hear more about this alliance of yours." As the transmission ended, the room erupted into excited chatter. The arrival of the Galactic Council changed everything. It meant that humanity's actions had caught the attention of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. "What does this mean for us?" Commander Lai asked, voicing the question on everyone's mind. Elder Zax looked thoughtful. "It means, my friends, that your bravery has opened a door. The galaxy now knows of humanity's existence, and of your noble hearts." Kira nodded enthusiastically. This could be the beginning of a new era of galactic cooperation. Think of all we could learn from each other. As the others discussed the possibilities, Captain Martinez stood quietly, looking out at the rebuilt Zoran city. They had come here to save one world, but it seemed they had changed the course of galactic history instead. She thought of Earth, so far away, and wondered how her home planet would handle this new reality. Humanity had taken its first steps onto the galactic stage. What adventures and challenges lay ahead, she could only imagine. One thing was certain: the universe would never be the same again. The arrival of the Galactic Council ship brought a flurry of activity to the Zoran homeworld. Preparations were made to receive the high-ranking delegates, with both Zorans and humans working together to create a suitable meeting place. Captain Martinez stood before a mirror, adjusting her dress uniform. She had been chosen to represent humanity in the upcoming talks. The weight of responsibility felt heavy on her shoulders. "Nervous?" Commander Lai asked, appearing behind her. Martinez nodded. "A little. We're not just representing Earth anymore. We're speaking for all of humanity." As they made their way to the Grand Hall, they saw the Galactic Council delegates for the first time. There were beings of all shapes and sizes, some with multiple limbs, others that seemed to float rather than walk. It was a vivid reminder of the vast diversity of life in the universe. Ambassador Xylox called the meeting to order. "We are here to discuss the recent events in this sector and the unexpected role played by the humans," it announced. For hours, both Zorans and humans recounted the story of the Krylox invasion and the battle that followed. The council members listened intently, their expressions unreadable. Finally, a tall, willowy being with gleaming silver skin spoke. "While we commend the bravery of the humans, we must express our concern. Your species has now been exposed to technology far beyond your development stage. This could have serious consequences for the balance of the galaxy." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the council delegates. Captain Martinez felt a chill run down her spine. Were they going to demand that humanity retreat back to Earth, cut off from the wider galaxy? But before she could speak, Kira stepped forward. "With all due respect," she said, her voice clear and strong, "I believe you're missing the point. Yes, the humans used advanced technology in the battle, but it wasn't the technology that saved us. It was their courage, their willingness to help strangers in need. That's something no amount of technological advancement can replace." Elder Zax nodded in agreement. "The humans remind us of something many of us have forgotten: the importance of compassion and the strength that comes from unity." The council members exchanged glances. Ambassador Xylox's eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of deep thought. "You make a compelling argument," it said finally. "Perhaps we have been too hasty in our judgment." Another council member, a being that looked like a sentient crystal, chimed in. "I propose we offer humanity provisional membership in the Galactic Council. Under our guidance, they could become a powerful force for good in the galaxy." The suggestion caused an uproar. Some council members argued it was too soon, that humanity wasn't ready. Others saw the potential benefits of bringing such a unique perspective into their ranks. As the debate raged on, Captain Martinez stepped forward. "If I may," she said, her voice cutting through the noise, "we didn't come here seeking power or recognition. We came because someone needed help. That's who we are as a species. We're explorers, yes, but more than that, we're helpers. If you invite us to join your council, that's the spirit we'll bring." Her words seemed to resonate with the delegates. One by one, they began to nod in agreement. Ambassador Xylox raised its appendages for silence. "We have much to discuss, but I believe we have the beginnings of a path forward. Captain Martinez, we would like to extend an invitation for Earth to send a permanent ambassador to the Galactic Council." The room erupted in cheers. Zorans and humans alike embraced, celebrating this new chapter in their shared history. As the festivities began, Martinez found a quiet corner. She looked out at the stars, thinking of home. Earth was about to enter a new era, one filled with incredible opportunities and challenges. The galaxy was opening up to them, full of wonders and dangers they had yet to imagine. Whatever the future held, one thing was certain: humanity had found its place among the stars, not through conquest or technological superiority, but through the simple act of answering a call for help. 5 years had passed since the day humanity answered the Zorans' call for help. The galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted. Earth had become a hub of interstellar activity. Spaceports bustled with beings from hundreds of different worlds. The sight of alien visitors walking down city streets had become commonplace. Captain Sarah Martinez, now Ambassador Martinez, stood on the balcony of the newly built Galactic Embassy in New York. She watched as ships of various designs took off and landed, a constant reminder of Earth's new place in the universe. "Quite a view, isn't it?" a familiar voice said behind her. Martinez turned to see Kira, her Zoran friend. The scientist had become Earth's liaison to the Galactic Council and a frequent visitor to the planet. "Sometimes I still can't believe it's real," Martinez admitted. "How are things on your world?" Kira smiled, her skin shimmering in the sunlight. "Better than ever. The last of the damage from the Krylox attack has been repaired. And thanks to human influence, we've started training our own defense force. Their conversation was interrupted by a young human aide. "Ambassador, it's time for the conference call with the council." Martinez nodded and followed the aide inside. In the communication room, a large holographic display showed the faces of various galactic council members. "Greetings, Ambassador," Ambassador Xylox said. "We have some concerning news. Our long-range scanners have detected Krylock's fleet movements. It seems they're regrouping for another attack." A tense silence fell over the room. The Krylock's empire, though weakened, had remained a threat to peace in the galaxy. But this time, a crystalline being chimed in. "We're prepared. Thanks to the Human-Zoran Alliance, we've developed new defensive strategies. The Council is united in its decision to stand against the Krylocks." Martinez felt a surge of pride. The alliance that began with a desperate plea for help had grown into a force that was reshaping galactic politics. "Earth stands ready to help," she said firmly. "Our fleet has grown, and our pilots have trained alongside the best in the galaxy. We won't let the Krylocks threaten peace again." As the meeting concluded, Martinez turned to Kira. "Looks like we might have another fight on our hands." Kira nodded, her expression serious. "Yes, but this time, we face it together. Not just Zorans and humans, but the entire Galactic Council." Over the next few weeks, ships from all corners of the galaxy arrived at Earth. It was to be the staging ground for the United Fleet. Species that had once been bitter enemies now worked side by side, preparing for the coming battle. On the day of departure, millions gathered to watch the fleet take off. It was a breathtaking sight. Thousands of ships, each representing a different world, rising into the sky as one. Aboard the flagship, Martinez stood on the bridge, Kira by her side. As Earth grew smaller behind them, she thought about how far they'd come. "You know," she said to Kira, "when we first answered your call, we had no idea what we were getting into. We were just trying to do the right thing." Kira smiled. "And in doing so, you showed the galaxy what humanity is capable of. Not just in battle, but in compassion and unity." As the fleet prepared to jump to light speed, Martinez looked at the diverse crew around her. Humans worked alongside beings from 100 different worlds, all united in a common cause. "Whatever happens," she said, her voice carrying across the bridge, "we face it together. For Earth, for Zora, for every world that stands for peace and freedom in this galaxy." A cheer went up from the crew as the stars stretched into lines of light around them. They were off to face their greatest challenge yet, but they did so not as separate species, but as a united galaxy. The story that began with a desperate plea for help had become a legend of hope, unity, and the indomitable spirit of all sentient beings. And at its heart were the humans, the ones who had answered the call when no one else would.